Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cinema Savvy. My name's Tayte. I'm joined with George today, and we're going to be discussing the best animated film picks for the Oscars this year. This is a yearly tradition that we do on the channel, where we speak about we give a bit more attention to the animated category because it seems to be the one that's always shoved to the wayside. A lot of criticism drawn for this category in recent years, but we love watching animated films on this channel. So it's always worth having a chat about the 5 that are considered to be the best of the year. So we're going to go into discussing that in a minute. But first, how are you doing today, George?
I'm very well. I think I've seen more animated films this week than maybe in the last not a couple of years combined, but I think it's the first week of my life I've watched 3 animated films. I've probably done it as a child, maybe on video, watching Toy Story or something. But yeah, it's been quite fun making my debut on this video for the first time, and I was a bit worried, I won't lie. I was like, can I see the one at a time? But Flea finished an hour ago, so here I am in good time. And what we're going to do today, guys, we want you to come along with us. This is obviously an annual tradition on the series. We brought up to the Oscars. Do comment your thoughts on the animated film nominees. Is there any films you think missed out that should have been nominated? What do you think will win? What could win? What should win? All that kind of stuff. Do comment along. Tate's going to very quickly go over the premise in a couple of moments, but please do hit that subscribe button. We are 8 days and an evening away from the Oscar ceremony. It is not a leap year. It's the clocks go back or forward. I always forget which one over here at 1 a.m.
Yes.
Yeah, so I need to readjust next Saturday. Saturday night. It might be even longer actually when we get into the Sunday evening. I don't know. But until we do hit the subscribe button and find us on our social media. It's where we tend to announce a lot of our videos. That is Twitter at cinema_savvy, Facebook and letterboxd.com/cinemasavvy. And we have a link to TeePublic in that description below. I'm not wearing any of the merch today. I'm wearing a different company's merch, but Tayte is modeling the hoodie for us. You can pick that up on there. And there may be some updates in the near future about stuff like that, which we'll share when we can. But that being said, we are here talking Oscar stuff again. And Tayte, kind of for anyone new, myself included, I mean, yes. I do know the premise now. Tell the people what they can expect from this video, what we're going to be going through.
Yeah, sure. So we're going to do a very quick rundown of all of the films that have been nominated this year. There are 5. I think there's normally 5. I'm pretty sure it's 5 every year for this category. So we're going to go through kind of talking about the films. Some of them we've already reviewed on the channel, so we will kind of direct you to go towards there, but we'll also give a very kind of quick overview of those films as well and kind of give our thoughts, see whether they've kind of improved over time, whether they've worsened over time in our opinions and stuff like that. So we're going to go over that. And then once we've done all of that, we're going to kind of decide between ourselves what we think should win and then what we think is actually going to win. Because normally there is a big difference between the two of those there. And I think already this year we have in mind a film that probably should win and a film that definitely is going to win, as there is always a clear favorite in these. And I guess we're going to do this in alphabetical order as well. So I guess we start off with Encanto.
Yeah, Encanto. I saw this on Friday. So obviously this came out in November now. I don't think there's been a review on the channel. Again, I don't know how you guys normally go through these sort of one by one, but if you want, I've really vague thoughts. Obviously, I'm new to it this week, so I knew of the hype. I knew that I would say a year ago, it didn't feel like it got traction when it came out. It felt like Frozen, right? Where after a couple of weeks, people were still talking about this new film that was coming out, and there was a song that was going viral. Now, I'm not up to date with music, so I didn't know the name of the song until the Oscar nominees because it wasn't the one nominated, which I guess is a conversation within itself. But it's really hard to talk about this one first because it's the first of the 5 we're going to be speaking about. But I think I enjoyed it. Yeah, I'm gonna leave that for you to get into more because I feel quite rookie doing this.
That's okay. So for me, Encanto, I also heard of the hype, and it was one of those where it kind of snuck up on you because I didn't hear any advertising going into it. Didn't really hear much about it coming out, and then suddenly it was out on Disney Plus, and everyone was talking about it. And for me, it's trending along with kind of the way that Disney are modeling their films nowadays. They will pick a culture to kind of dive into and stuff like that. They will have kind of songs leading to the heritage and kind of in the similar kind of style of music and stuff like that, kind of following in those kind of footsteps of their recent films. And it'll always be popular. It'll always be a massive hit. I wasn't the biggest fan of Encanto. And here's the thing. This is a film where it has some absolute die-hard fans, which I've already seen kind of all over the place. A lot of people who absolutely adore this film. And I can understand the appeal, but it did not appeal to me. And there are multiple different reasons for that. For me, I wasn't a fan of all of the characters. I think there's an awful lot of characters for such a short film. I think there's like, is there like 13 or 14 named characters or something like that in this film, which kind of get at least a little bit of screen time shared between themselves. It didn't help with the runtime because the runtime is only about 1 hour 15, 1 hour 20. It felt a lot longer whilst watching it. It did not fly by for me. It kind of
mine was about 150. Mine
Yours was 150. Maybe I got that wrong. It felt a lot longer when watching it. Like for me.
No,
maybe
I get that.
Kind of, yeah, go on.
Here's the thing with Encanto.
Yeah.
Because the stuff I really enjoyed about it was more so the premise and the family dynamic. That I love the concept that, because obviously, like so many Disney films, it is not based off real life, but very much the concept of the having a family or a group of people needing to flee and rehome themselves. Obviously, I mean, this isn't going to be the first time I say something very relevant to what's happening today, even more so in film. We'll be speaking about in a short while. But I really enjoyed this dynamic that I think everyone involved was had Colombian descent, all the voice actors and actresses, and there was all that concept which I really enjoyed, and it was a very different Disney film. I love this idea that they've just had this gift of magic, and they've had the one person that never had it. It's a very traditional Disney story, which I quite enjoyed. But I feel like I didn't enjoy the music too much. And what's even weird is that Lin-Manuel's done the songs for this film as well. And I think it was when I was in the news a few weeks ago, and I think don't talk about Bruno. That's the name of it. Yeah, that had like outstreamed Frozen or something, and I was really, really shocked at that because when it got to it in the film, I was kind of waiting. I said that I haven't heard the song. I didn't know what the song was. I was waiting for this triumphant, in Frozen, Let It Go. That's the main song. Whereas in this, I never felt it had that backing. I don't want to sit there and jump in and say it's overhyped and all that, but I feel that recency bias may be the best term to discuss this film for how the award ceremony is going to go. I can understand why it's been such a big hit with a lot of the kids. I know that a few people I know that have kids and stuff, and they absolutely love it. They glue to it, which is really cool to see. It's still important that Disney has that effect on the younger generation, that it's not just older films. They're going to get new ones here. For us, it would have been Pixar in the 90s, Toy Story, and we still had the 90s Disney films, which were like the big renaissance. And it looks like, again, to be fair, the last 5-10 years, Disney's had that again with their animated films where they're getting these bigger ones and these kids are more invested in. I feel, I don't want to even say it's painted by the numbers because it's an animated film. It doesn't need to be deep or complex, but I just felt like something was missing for me. I felt there was so much premise, so much intrigue. There were some really cool characters. I love Bruno as well. Just the concept of the wayward family member. He wasn't the villain for once, which you'd always assume it would be. And it just got to the end. I just felt like I'm missing something here. Like, have I misread the film, or have I missed 10, 15 minutes? Because I just felt like it suddenly ended. And that's kind of my issue with it. I never felt that the characters had a payoff to what was set up. And when they did, it was like 3/4 way through the film, and then magically the house fell apart. And yeah, there's certain things I really struggled with.
Yeah, apologies. I got my films actually mixed up. I did think this film went on for too long, but I've also watched a lot of films this week, and Belfast was one of them, and that was short. And that did feel like it was, dragged on for a bit longer. But no, this film, it's something about it. I just did not connect with it at all. And like you said with the songs, I heard a lot about We Don't Talk About Bruno, and I was really kind of expecting something big, and it wasn't. And all of the other songs never really hit me with anything. Like, I wasn't like kind of humming along to them. I wasn't like getting caught up in them and stuff like that. It just seemed a bit, there was something missing with this film, and I don't know what it was. But I don't know if it was kind of the overclouding of the characters. Maybe the songs, for me at least, weren't as catchy as films like Frozen, Moana. I'll always go back to Moana as being one of the kind of staples of kind of Disney in recent times, as being a film that is kind of perfectly paced, has very good kind of voice acting, not too many characters, and brilliant songs. But this film just didn't cut it in the same way for me. which is a shame. Saying that, this film is the clear favorite to win Best Animated Feature, and I think that comes down to exactly what you said with recency bias. This film came out. Is it the latest out of all of them, or is Flea kind of? It's a bit of a tough one because
Flea's like a.
It's like
It's
the
not
outsider.
a traditional
It's not
animated film.
Popular choice. So Encanto's the one that's most recent that could win. Is of the eligible ones could technically win it. So it probably will.
Yeah, and I think with Encanto, it's Disney Plus has released the sing-along version this week, and it's the first sing-along Disney's doing, and the Oscar ballot open this week as well. So, you know, if everyone's had kids that thought it calmed down, now the sing-along version's out, it's probably going to get even worse. And I just feel that Encanto has been massive, and even its box office numbers, 250 mil, I think it grossed total. Pandemic numbers coming out in November at the same time Spider-Man's come out, which is one of the highest grossing films in history.
Yeah.
A lot of other things out. Those numbers are very solid, and for a film that debuted on Disney Plus, a family film at that, very good numbers. I think it sort of stayed consistent throughout, and I do think it is going to get that from recency, because if I'm being blunt, the 5 films I've seen, it's harder to compare Flea to any of them just because of the nature of the story. But the 4 others we'll go through, this is probably my least favorite.
No, I would put this above one of the others. I put this above one of the others, which we'll speak about later. But I was going to say this might be a good point to talk about, just very, very briefly, a little bit of controversy behind the Best Animated Feature category, because a lot of chatter over the years and stuff like that. First of all, is this being broadcast this year? Because I haven't actually checked.
I believe this is in the broadcast. I may be right. I've got 1 in 2 chance of being right, but I think this has made it to the 15 being televised, which is disgraceful. But here's the worst thing about it. They are not just Dos Oruguitos is the nominated song from this film.
Yeah.
On the stage on the night, they will also be doing the Bruno song live to the televised broadcast. Now, elephant in the room, they didn't submit it to me, and the reason why I didn't get nominated is because they didn't submit. I think each film has had 1 song to be nominated per film, and they picked Dos Oruguitos, and Bruno's been the massive hit. And I don't know how that sits with me. That again, everything I can criticize. We're getting a Godfather reunion for the 5th anniversary. That's magnificent. This is going to be like a mini Oscar rant. We're getting Bond's 60th anniversary. Magnificent. I'll take that. You're getting the Bruno song on stage. Don't know why, but I can understand why. But then you're axing 8 awards. Integral awards, and you've had Jessica Chastain this week come out and say, I won't be doing any press on the red carpet. I am going in, I'm sitting down, and I'm going to watch my team who did my makeup get the recognition they deserve. And I think it's now come out that ABC, owned by Disney, told the Oscars they have to cut 8 awards. It is the Oscars quotation, couldn't say no without losing the broadcast. And I just thought, well, every gaming award's streamed on YouTube now. Every award show, every year. They get millions of people viewing. They're trying to appeal to an audience that doesn't, without sort of tangent-wise, but it's a 3-hour show about films. If you don't care about films, you're not going to watch it in the first place. So what difference does it make that you're having a Godfather reunion, a performance of Bruno, a Bond thing? That is not going to bring in people that don't care. It just defeats itself in the purpose. And what you're actually doing is you're discrediting the hundreds and thousands of people across the industry that work on these awards. It's stuff like editing, I think cinematography, soundtrack has been gone. Even though Hans Zimmer's on stage in Europe, he won't be there to collect it. I'd still like to witness him win it and send someone up on stage to collect it for him. Or if he does a video from the tour. So, yeah, the Oscars is an absolute mess this year for broadcast. And that also stuffs up our predictions game. Because I believe the 8 are going to be told online before it starts or something. I don't know if they're embargoed, but you know how at BAFTA it's not in sync. You can go and get the BAFTA. It might be the same for this, which is
that's bad.
It's a mess. And we're getting Amy Schumer as a third of the host, which is even worse.
Yeah, and also on top of that, controversy for this category specifically over the last few years. People who have voted on the Oscars have said they just get their kids to watch the films, not them watching the films and voting on it themselves. They go whatever their kid likes to watch, which is bad because if they're watching all of these, I don't think Flea is a kid's film. I think it's a very heavy subject film, which we are now going to talk about. It's easily the hardest hitting one. There's always one that they like to kind of nominate to be kind of the adult pick. So I remember from a few years ago, I Lost My Body was a very cool, very weird film. No kid will probably ever watch that film because it's about a person who gets dismembered. But like this film is taking on some heavy subjects, some very heavy subjects. It talks about human trafficking. It talks about rape. It talks about like society and stuff like that. Torture and just so much stuff like corrupt policing. It goes into heavy subjects about kind of the situations that people are put into leaving their country, about war, about being a homosexual in a country that doesn't accept it. All of these kind of themes, which are incredibly kind of heavy and dense and stuff like that. I really enjoyed this film. I didn't get into it at the start. And I don't know if it's because normally when I think of best animated film, I'm looking for beautiful animation. I'm not looking for kind of a jarring kind of documentary styled kind of focus of kind of what they went with, which isn't the prettiest animation. It's done in the documentary format and it's done as an animated film to protect the kind of faces of the people who are involved, which they say at the start, which I quite like. It's a very unique way of getting around it. And it's only kind of later on in the film where it starts to build and build and build, and you get hold the situation that the film gets better and finds its kind of footing. And I did enjoy it in the end. It's not the strongest of picks. It's intriguing. It's something that I think is worth watching. I think everyone should give it a watch if they can. But at the same time, it's not the strongest of films. It's not going to engage everyone. And it is very, very heavy viewing, especially because I watched this and then went on to watch Drive My Car, which has to be one of the most depressing double bills of all time as far as the Oscars are concerned.
Yeah, so Flea I saw today, and I knew it was a story about someone fleeing the country, a refugee, and I didn't realize that it would cover, someone homosexuality going from Afghanistan to Norway, and obviously with everything happening in Ukraine as well. It's very. This is a documentary. Yeah, hard hitting is the best term because it is a tough watch naturally. But when we know that there's real life things happening right now with thousands, I mean, there's always conflict on. There are other wars happening which are equally as bad. And obviously, I guess you could say the media limelight is on Ukraine. Is maybe a fairer way of also saying that. Obviously, we're hoping it does get better mainly. But when we're seeing our country, UK, like trying the hardest not to take any refugees, and then you see things like this is a documentary. And what made this fascinating is that it isn't trying to be 3D animated. It's telling the story. The animation styles differ from when you have a current day timeline to the flashbacks, and that's something I really enjoyed about this film. And as you said, it's covering so much. It's really short. Because I messaged you saying I went. I was a bit bored, and that was just before the halfway point. And then as soon as you get the scene on the boat, that's when it really kicked off. Like, okay, now I'm starting to see it a bit more. Like, it took its time to get into it. When it got into it, as you said, the hard hitting stuff is there, and it's so relevant. And it was just really, I don't know. I keep saying the word tough watch, but for a film to be nominated for 3 awards: best documentary, best foreign film, and best animated film. I can completely understand why it's up for all 3. I believe that's the first time in history a film has those 3 nominations as well. And I just thought it was a really fascinating concept. And off the real life stuff, I think what kind of hits home is the fact that, this isn't fictional. I'm not going to say you get fictional stories about refugees. You do, and obviously you get real ones. But having it presented in this way, I thought was quite tough. I don't think it's the kind of subject matter in which most, not awards voters, but funding for films like this is scarce. And I believe that the 2 producers on this, one of which is, Jamie Lannister. I might be wrong in saying that. Where's it gone?
Nicola Costa-Waldau?
Yes, it is. He popped up the credits, and Riz Ahmed. So it is Nicola Costa-Waldau. I'm back on checking now. They were both executive producers, but their names are right at the front. I thought, you know what? these guys have no need to tell this story, but here they are choosing to tell these stories, help these get funding, and it's quite amazing, really, especially with all the work Riz Ahmed's been doing behind the scenes in the industry the last couple of years. And yeah, I didn't, when you get the premise, it's a film about a refugee. I didn't expect that the story about the fact that he's actually gay and he's not come out to his sibling as well, the stuff with the mother and all the other things. And I think that's what I find quite compelling, that it's not just like one thing this person has been through or going through. It is a sort of combination of everything possible. And we see, you mentioned the trafficking, we've got scenes about the corrupt police in Russia, going into the car with the women and all that kind of stuff. And it's quite harrowing that I'm going to be blunt. I'm surprised this film is nominated. It doesn't feel like the kind of, not even animated, but it just doesn't feel like the kind of film they would normally want to put forwards. And you know what, full play for them for doing so.
No, absolutely. And it's like we said, it starts off slow, but then it just becomes so interesting towards the end to watch everything kind of come together. And I think possibly the biggest smile on my face out of all of the animated films with the Rose Club scene at the end, like just kind of that kind of reveal at the end was fantastic, and I really liked that. But you can tell that this film has been lived. It's something that it's very unusual to say about a kind of animated film, to say, oh wow, you can tell like these events actually happen and stuff like that. But like you said, the seamless change between the different animation styles, kind of depending on whether it's a story from the past or the story kind of being retold. The documentary format of kind of almost like therapy sessions of this person just talking out his experiences. It's so well put together in the end, and it fully deserves its place on this list. It's still not the strongest in kind of all of them, sadly. But it's something new. It's something inventive for this category, and I mean, what can you say other than like fair play to it for being nominated for these things? And I kind of am rooting for it to win one of the awards. I don't know if it will or not. I think best bet's probably documentary, but it's up against Summer of Soul, which is a heavy favorite. Yeah. It's really hard because it's up against some really kind of heavy dead-on favorites in all of the categories. So it's up against Summer of Soul and documentary. It's up against Drive My Car in foreign language and Worst Person in the World, and also it's up against kind of Encanto and I guess Luca in this category, which is a good time to segue onto Luca. Now, we've reviewed Luca on this channel a while ago. I had mixed feelings about this film. Since kind of reflecting on it and having about half a year to go over it and watching it again, I think this film's fantastic. I think this film captures kind of the childish nature of people, and this is kind of a better version of The Shape of Water, or the best version you could possibly get of The Shape of Water. It's fantastic. I love it.
I was quite late to this. When did it come out? June.
June.
I got it in. I think I saw it in like November time, and I jumped it again. And what kind of fascinating with Luca is that, well, I think we spoke about it on Turning Red. If we didn't, it was before or after. Obviously, we've got the current issues with Pixar. That they've obviously wrote the letter about Disney cutting off certain scenes and character choices. Today in the news, it's come out that there's going to be a same-sex kiss in Lightyear. Disney had cut it, and now because of the letter last week, they're putting it back in. I don't think that helps Disney's situation on the hands, because it's not really. It's just that's a whole conversation for another time. But Luca, I really enjoyed. I said I knew the concept going in, not literally fish out of water, but when the first trailer came out, I thought this was a film about two gay teenagers, and I thought, oh my word, Pixar are going to do something groundbreaking that's never been done. And obviously, it doesn't come to fruition, and that doesn't affect my viewing of the film. But watching this film, I just fundamentally saw the two as a couple. And I was really charmed by this film. As I said, I didn't see it at release. I saw it a few months after. And I felt like this one went under the radar. That June was probably the wrong place to release a Pixar film like this. This would have benefited from a March time release, i.e. to what Turning Red's had. And I was just pleasantly surprised. I thought it was funny. It was engaging. And I believed in this friendship. And when you get to the... I keep going to say bicycle race out loud. It's not, but all I can think of is the Queen song.
It's like a triathlon, isn't it?
Yeah,
of sorts.
And by the time I got to it, I was invested in the whole thing, everything. And when you get that train station sequence at the end, I just absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
And Luca, I think is honestly going to go down for the next few years as one of the most underrated Pixar films, and not even Pixar, but maybe even animated films people haven't seen. And it would be just lovely if more people saw it. And I feel like this and one other should win. I don't think it'll be this.
Yeah.
We'll get to the one later on, but just with Luca, I felt like I was watching Pixar doing something different again. I know I said that recently with Turning Red. They took on a really ballsy subject, a very important subject culturally, as well as obviously what a lot of people go through at certain ages and puberty and stuff. And I just felt like Luca was a really fascinating deep dive. And I don't want to sit and complain about the overlords at Disney. Obviously, there are issues there, but it does make me slightly think like I would love to have known what Pixar's original plans are. Not that we'll ever hear them or need to hear them, because I don't think it affects how much I enjoyed this film. But what it has done, Luke honestly blew me. And I think I don't know if I cried at the end, but there was probably something.
I cried at the end. The train station sequence is a fantastic ending. It's not even bittersweet. It's just really, really well put together. And the animated style, which I thought at first was a bit kind of like, it was different, is a bit more kind of childish, named more at kids. I come to appreciate that more now because it adds to the kind of charm of the film. I think charm is the best word to describe Luca as a film. It's a really, really charming film that just gets better on every viewing. And there's not really much more I could say about it. It's just one of those films which I think will go down as being very underrated. And I hope more people kind of pick it up, especially if it ends up winning, because I think it's probably got the best chance against Encanto of winning out of all of them. I feel like so. Well, we'll talk about the next film, because the next film we've had is kind of like when we first reviewed it, we said immediately, oh, it should be nominated. It probably should win as well. And it's Lord and Miller, and it's Sony Animation, and they're doing amazing things. And what's the next Into the Spider-Verse film? Because that's probably going to win the thing next year. It's gonna win it next year. Probably get nominated for Best Picture as well if it's a good enough film. But I feel like Luca, I really, it's one of those underdog films. I'm really gunning for it. And I really do hope that it does pick up. If it's going to go up against Encanto, I really do hope that they go with the Pixar one instead of the Disney animated. Let's talk about Mitchells and the Machines, or Mitchells versus the Machines, or what was it originally called? Not Upload. It was called like Wired or something like that.
Something. When did that come out? Me and you reviewed that, right? That was like April or May. It was very early last year.
It was before the Oscars last year, and it missed the Oscar voting for last year, but it got in for this year.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest problem I have with it is that Sony sold it to Netflix, which I get you want to make a quick buck, but when we were raving about this last year, it came out April 23rd. That might be the Oscar week, because the Oscars were later last year. Mitchells vs. the Machines. I went in knowing next to nothing. I don't know if I saw a trailer. I can't remember in truth. But everyone was raving on the timeline. And I know that film Twitter can be a bubble at times, and I'm very much part of that bubble. But I adore Spider-Verse. As I said, I'm not big on animated films. I don't get to see a variety. I mainly am a Pixar fanboy. Is there even a term for that? I hope not. But
Pixie boy.
I'll get a pixie cut next time. Mitchells vs. the Machines, I just sort of fell in love with it. It was a film that was clearly made by, it's Phil Lord and Miller, right? But the main thing was it was about someone that wanted to be a filmmaker. Not that it needed to resonate with me or any other people, but very film-centric. And I felt like they just took on board every insane idea they've ever had. And they have had some truly insane ideas. And so many of them have worked. I'm going to give them that too. And I just thought there's no way this one was going to sustain momentum for a whole year, because it has been, 11 months now.
Yeah.
And it's still just a joy to watch, to think about. During its press run, it's had screenings. I believe this has got a Blu-ray release, which is like probably one of the only Netflix films last few years to actually get a Bluray that wasn't The Irishman or Criterion.
Crown probably as a series went out on Blu-ray, but other than that,
yeah, to get it out within like a year as well, versus sometimes like The Crown's like 2 years after, it's just ridiculous. And I've absolutely loved reading everything about this film. Letterboxd, obviously a website we use for the channel, very popular. They allowed Katie to assume control of Letterboxd's Twitter for the day. Obviously, it was written by probably one of the writers doing the tweets, but they have absolutely nailed the last few months of promoting this film at the award ceremonies and stuff. And I personally believe it's going to be a travesty that this doesn't win, because this should win. The animation style by itself was superb, but in the heart of this, it isn't just about an invasion. It isn't a comedy. It's not about films being made by filmmakers. This is a family drama, and it's a very dysfunctional family. And yes, that's a common trope in so many animated films, but this just takes it in such a mature way that you can appreciate it both as someone older and probably younger. And also the Furby scene is one of the best scenes of the last year as well.
No, I was going to say the Furby scene is something that stands out with the Was I Just Furby and the humor. It's something that you always get with Lord and Miller films. They just seem to absolutely nail kind of the comedy absolutely down. Some of the best writers around at the moment, and just kind of with their film catalog they put out, it's just shown it. They've shown their ability to do animated films before, and kind of being put into the seat again with Sony and stuff like that, to be able to come forward and make this style of film once again, absolutely fantastic. And it has sustained momentum, which I was actually also surprised about. The only thing that I can think of that would let this film down is the final act. I wasn't the biggest fan of kind of like the way the film ended with kind of the big kind of in the sky hoverboard. That's all I remember from it, is like a giant hoverboard battle in the sky. I remember not being the biggest fan of it back then. When you think about the entire rest of the film, the family dynamic, everything down to the animated style, the frantic nature of the kind of little side cuts of like her life and stuff like that, it's fantastically well put together. It's brilliant, and I think it does deserve a lot more attention than it actually gets. And I do wonder if it's probably not getting as much kind of attention purely because it did go onto Netflix, and with Netflix stuff, it's very flash in the pan. You remember stuff going up to Oscar season when it's Netflix because it's The Irishman and it's like they're on their homepage. This was on their homepage for 1 week and then just disappeared. And I haven't seen it since. Haven't seen it on my suggested, nothing. So I think it's very difficult to kind of keep momentum when that's the only kind of exposure you're getting from that side of things.
Yeah, and what annoys me with Netflix is they choose to promote. I mean, I know this is really dumb, right? So Apple and Netflix have these blank checkbooks for Netflix PR, not for Netflix, but awards PR. You know, we're going to set up they remade not Moon Knight. That's a different thing. The Monsoon Cafe from Tick Tick Boom. They remade that and had an Oscars lunch the other week and invited all the voters down to meet Andrew Garfield. Netflix can get away with doing that kind of funding, and you know how easy is it to? It's not bribe voters. It's obviously it's a for their consideration type event. But you look at how they've done The Power of the Dog, and you look at they always pick like 3 or 4 films and just run with them, and they don't look back. As soon as they know what's got a chance, they'll just cut the others off. You're done. Our only focus will be on this. And there was a really big film that I've completely forgotten about, which Netflix has ultimately chosen to ignore to do press for as well as this. Don't know if it got any nominations or it's one that could have, and they just went against it. But it's really frustrating when we get these like big companies, and because Netflix are doing I don't want to say they're doing a fantastic job. Power of the Dog is like a beast within itself, how it's approached this award season.
I was going to say, I'm kind of shocked that, going back onto the Oscars thing, I'm kind of shocked that Harder They Fall wasn't put forward for editing or so, like sound design and mixing.
Yes, someone name dropped that amongst a couple of other ones. And like Netflix, there were so many original films. But they just went with, okay, we'll pick Lost Daughter. Don't know why. There's a review on that.
No idea why.
Yeah, and the fact it did better over there than here. And like Olivia Colman's British and she didn't get the recognition that BAFTA tends to say a lot, but you know, they went with a bit of tick, 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 boom. It had momentum from fans for them to then do, okay, you know what, we'll go with this. They could have done it earlier. They could have done, because not dissing Andrew Garfield, not at all. But the film didn't have much Oscar momentum until Spider-Man. And the reality is that Netflix jumped on the back off the Spider-Man hype, got Andrew Garfield everywhere, and now they've had a successful PR campaign. But so much of that comes down to everybody saw him in Spider-Man recently at Christmas.
Yeah.
And it's just frustrating that you get a film like Mitchell's v. the Machines. On paper, you know, I'm not saying if this was Disney or whatever, but if this was Disney, could you imagine the toys that would come out? Can you imagine how much merch they could do? Like how perfect they could choose to do something else. It's like Encanto would drop
robots alone would do enough.
And I think this could be an IP. I honestly think. I know there's talk of a sequel. That one of the directors wanted to do a sequel, and Phil Lord and Miller I know they're not going to hide from sequels. I think we're going to get Spider-Verse Part 2 and Part 3, and then maybe they'll come back to this. But it's a real shame that I think of the five. Again, it's really hard to compare this to Flea because just of the nature of the whole things. This is by far and away probably the most animation style, the most interesting concept. But I know it's similar to the Spider-Man animation styles, but it doesn't feel like I've seen this animation style before. It feels still quite new. Whereas with a couple of the others, I just feel like, oh yeah, the animation is really good. But I've also seen this in like all of your films for 90 years.
And I guess that's a good talking point to move on to our final film, which is the cookie cutter Raya and the Last Dragon. I dislike this film. I don't think it should have been nominated. I think it's poor in general. I think the message is kind of very ham-fisted and stuff like that. I think it's a carbon copy of Avatar: The Last Airbender and literally just condenses that entire story or rips it off and takes it into an hour and a half long film. I think it's just not as good as what anyone thought it would be. And honestly, I completely forgot about the film's existence until it got nominated. And I think a lot of people did as well. I don't see anyone crying out saying, oh my God, Raya and the Last Dragon is such a good film. I think everyone's just already forgotten about it. And they went, we need something to fill in that fifth slot. Because we got kind of the popular one at the moment. We've got the Pixar film. We've got the other animated studio who's doing something slightly different. We've got the completely kind of sideways one, which is being nominated for other categories, and we kind of have to throw it in. And they're like, oh, Disney made another film? Oh, well, we'll throw that one in. And it's a shame because this slot, the only film that comes to mind that could have filled in the slot was Belle, which a lot of people have been talking about. A lot of people put it on their best of the year lists. I've heard fantastic things about it. A lot of animated YouTubers have been putting it as their number one of the year. Like, not even just like top 10. Oh, yeah, it should possibly be nominated. It's the best. They're saying it's the best film, animated or even film of the year, which is kind of a Japanese anime style version of Beauty and the Beast set in an online kind of world. And yet we get the cookie cutter Disney film, which it feels so samey. It's the animal sidekick. It's just not entertaining.
I actually love this film. No, honestly, right? Maybe it's because I had lower expectations than the others. I knew pretty much nothing. I knew that Kelly Marie Tran was voicing the main character. I knew that I can never pronounce it. Awkwafina was playing the dragon, and Awkwafina, sorry, and I know what comedy I'm going to get from that. And I don't mind. I really enjoyed her in Shang-Chi. Maybe that helped going into this. Also, I was just watching this at the start, and very, very Disney. You know, here's an extended prologue. Our people are going to get wiped out. We must come together and band. I've not seen Avatar. What you said, that might be another thing within it. But I really enjoyed this. I thought the animation looked absolutely gorgeous. I know that's easy to say again with that Disney backing, but yeah, there was something about this where I even got a bit misty-eyed when they all turned to stone. Maybe that was the Pokemon memories as a kid. But as you're right, it is very by the numbers. It is as simple as it's going to come. We all must get along. We must come together, save the kingdom. I can tell you something too I mentioned like that. And I think you are right. I do feel... I don't want to sit here and say it doesn't deserve it. I'm pretty sure the only other film was Sing 2 that could have been nominated that wasn't. Because that did come out in America way before the UK.
Yeah.
And I just had a really good time with this. I enjoyed the characters. Now, I know obviously you get like Benedict Wong turns up and you're on the spot. Oh, look, that's Benedict Wong. And you start to recognize some of the big names they've had across this. But I just quite liked the concept of it, that you've got like the babies, the thieving, and the broken society stuff. And it felt darker than usual for Disney with this sort of post-apocalyptic turning to dust. Yes, we've had that in a Marvel film recently. But there was some really cool stuff I liked from it. But I think maybe it's because I went into this with a different approach. Maybe I went into Encanto knowing Encanto is probably going to win. Encanto is the one of the big song that everyone's talking about. Luca's the Pixar one. Flea is the documentary forum one. And this sort of Mitchell's the Machines is not the Netflix one, but the one. And this was like, this maybe makes it this, but I had a really fun time with it. I actually prefer this to Encanto by a country mile. I think I wouldn't say I prefer this to Luca though. Definitely not Mitchell's the Machines, but I don't know. I quite enjoyed this, and I get where some of the issues would lie within it, though. I do see that. I know that when some people think of a dragon, you might not think of it being the way it is, but I don't know. I thought, while feeling something like a story I've seen a million times, I just felt it was told differently. Maybe that's me.
I've seen this film so many times, as in other films and stuff like that. But I've just had a look through at the films that could have been nominated, and one that completely slipped my mind was Ron's Gone Wrong, which did have somewhat of kind of a campaign behind it and stuff like that, with people kind of saying, "Oh, you should watch this film" and stuff like that. We also had Robin, which is Aardman.
That's up for short, though. That's up for short.
That's up for sure. Yeah, it's teetering on the edge, though, isn't it? It could have been possibly, because Aardman have had films that have been quite short nominated for the full feature length before. And then other than that, you haven't really got many choices, sadly. You've got, I think, let's have a look. You've got The Addams Family 2. You've got Sing 2. You've got Boss Baby 2. You've got the Tom and Jerry one.
They're doing a TV series about Boss Baby, and apparently it's going to be about him in prison for embezzling. I've never seen the Boss Baby, but I saw this come out in the news week, and I thought, I knew that Boss Baby is a bit of a meme, right, amongst like the film community. Like, it's got a bit of Shrek vibes when you hear about like the iconography and it's a joke and all this. So I was like, should I now watch Boss Baby if they're doing embezzling? It just sat there and made me think. And loads of people always compare it to Kingpin. I think because he wears a suit and he's bald. Yeah. I don't know, but again, animated film isn't my forte. Like I don't know the genre as much. I'm not as familiar on the upcoming launches and stuff. Again, mainly Pixar with me, but I do feel that when the lockdown one happened, a lot of animated films did get soul streaming. Obviously, Mitchell's with the Machines was one. Raya chucked online. Disney Premium, which was that silly idea that backfired. Year one, they had loads of films at the start, didn't they? At the start of lockdown one, they were sending films in for them to not even bother studios to put this online. Maybe that was Sing 1. There was a film that's now had a sequel since. And
that was Trolls 2. Was the one.
Trolls 2. And I just feel like with COVID, animated, I mean, a lot of films have took a back seat. That's no denying. I know there's the whole argument about our cinemas turning into a place where only Marvel films are going to be allowed to be shown in the next 10 years. I don't know this kind of questions. The answer is no, but I see the arguments and perspectives people have. I just feel that animated films have took I don't even want to say backseat. I feel there's less originality in the genre now. And I feel that the burdens, the shackles come down to people like Pixar. Pixar's like, you make good original films, go make more. And I understand why people would be frustrated with something like Lightyear coming out. That, oh, look, it's kind of another Toy Story film. And I see, but they want to make those films. But at the same time, again, does it come down to funding for the animated genre? Or because we're getting Chicken Run 2 in the next year or two, aren't we? Yeah. That's going to be amazing. I've got no idea why they're doing a Chicken Run 2. It's going to be The Incredibles 2. I'm not quite sure the logic doing it so far later.
No.
Like, it can't just be set the next day, right? Chickens don't last for 20 years. And there's no point having a sequel set the scene after. So it's a really... I feel the animated genres took a hit more. A weird state's a good term. I do think COVID's affected this, and I think studios right now are just thinking short term, like, we need to pump money into some films to get out to make us money. Obviously, Spider-Verse is going to be a massive hit. And I'm not going to rule out cameos from, I guess we have to call them Peter 1, 2, and 3 now. Yeah. If it's not teased in this part 2, they'll come up in part 3. But animated films, weird state. I don't know if I'm a bit on a loose tangent there.
Yeah, no. So now we are going to go into what will win and what should win. We'll start off with what should win, what we personally think should win. Because for me, it's a toss-up between Luca and Mitchell's. Mm-hmm. And personally, I'm going to go with Luca because I think the film has a bit more longevity. When I think of Sony Studios at the moment, my mind does go to Spider-Verse, and I know there's going to be another one coming out. With Luca, it's so on its own and so kind of encapsulated in the film and was so charming and kind of grew on me over time, whereas Mitchell's was great at the start and has just maintained being great. I feel like Luca, because I had it at like a medium and it's kind of risen up, I'm leaning more towards that. That's what I think should win. What I think will win is Encanto, and I don't even think it's going to be close. I think the Oscar voting is going to be so one-sided landslide. It's going to be wrong, and I completely disagree with it winning.
Yeah, I'm the same as you. I think Luca is a better film per se than if you drill it down into the essence, to the story, to the characters, to the development. I would argue that Luca is it better than Mitchell's? That's a fantastic question.
See, the thing for me with
those two,
the third act for me with Mitchell's is what kind of, because selling your third act, Luca's third act is way better than Mitchell's.
And that's where I'm with it, is that I feel that Luca is better for character story, but there's just something audacious about Mitchell's where it just works. I feel like Mitchell's is the kind of film that shouldn't work, that has worked. And I guess you could probably say that about Phil Lord and Chris Miller's career, right? Spider-Verse shouldn't have worked, but it did. The Rainy with a Chance of Meatballs, was it? The Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs? That was the same. The Jump Street reboot didn't work. And obviously, one film we know didn't work, which was obviously reshot was Solo, a Star Wars story, now directed by Ron Howard. So they're an incredible duo. Plus, I know that there was other directors involved. I want to add on all those projects as well. But there's something about them where they can just make madness work. And I feel like the animated genre is like their playground. Like they can make these insane things work because of the animation. And this is kind of where it boils down to. For when they look at best animated films, they look at what was the best story-wise, character-wise, or do they look at what was the best animation-wise?
Normally, popularity contest.
They look at popularity, exactly. What's the most popular? What's the one we know? And it is Encanto that's going to win it. I would bet everything on Encanto winning right now, even more so than any other award.
Odds are terrible for it. Like, I think when I looked at it, when I first kind of thought, oh yeah, let's have a cheeky look and see what the betting odds are like. I think it was at like, was it 1 to 32 or something like that? So you put 32 on, you only get one back. It's like, okay, so that's winning.
Yeah, and I just, like I said, it's not a bad film by any stretch of the imagination. I just don't think on this list of what we've got, it is there for me personally. I feel that, again, not just recency bias, but Disney have a hit on their hand, and I don't know what the term is for, like, do they call them like modern classics when the numbered ones are good? It's number 60, right? I think it's number 60. Mm-hmm. And as I said, I know that this has been massive with younger audiences and stuff like that. I just don't think it was better than two of the other ones. And I said there are themes in there and stuff I really enjoyed about Encanto. I just don't think overarchingly it was as good. And that's such a loose term, like what is good, what is someone's opinion of good. But yeah, I don't know. I'm interested on what do I really want to see. After the time, I'm leaning more towards Luca because I just think it's so ballsy. But I also think that you can't, and it's not Pixar's fault. They've had a film screwed again out of being at the cinemas. That was their second one out of 3. Now I know this stuff with the Disney upstairs with Bob Chapek. I'm not taking that on Luca at all, but I'm telling like if Luca genuinely was about to, and I hate doing ifs and buts and fan edits all that, but if Luca was about two young boys becoming boyfriends in a relationship, that would probably be one of the I don't even want to say ballsy. I hate words like that, but for Pixar to make that film would honestly be like groundbreaking. Yeah, groundbreaking is the best term, and that would sweep everything. And obviously, like some psychos online can't even handle Turning Red, which is insane, which is ridiculous. At the same time, plugging that review again, but Luke has now become what could have been. It's a shame because I thought it was fantastic. But when now it's right there in front of you what could have been as well. It kind of adds more. Yeah. But I'm gonna unfortunately Luca's not winning. I'm tethering towards Luca. No, I'll put Luca with Mitchell's and the Machines now. Again, I just love Pixar. I feel there's I feel Disney's lucky they got them as an IP. I know they were the first like mega one they bought. I know that Marvel was a couple of years after. Then obviously it was Star Wars and then it was Fox. But I'm not going to be blunt. I didn't even know that Pixar were a separate company until I was about 15. I always just assumed they were Disney. But yeah, Encanto is winning. And I know it's got a lot of fans and a lot of people will love that. But I just think it's not the first time the Oscars has done this with an animated film.
Absolutely not. Well, will we be right? Will we be wrong? You will find out on the night. But please comment along with your thoughts on what you would like to see as the best animated film, what wins the award, and stuff like that in the end. And please also tune into our Oscars live stream, which will be up on I want to say it's on the 28th. It's going to be very early in the morning on the 28th.
I think earlier for you, well, technically later for you, which is worse, if that makes sense.
I've also got to work the next day as well. It's horrible. But please be sure to kind of tune into that and see if we're right, see if we're wrong on that one. And also follow us on all of our social media where we'll be able to tell you exactly the times in which things are going live. It's going to be confusing. The Oscars decided to put it on daylight savings for some strange reason.
I think Americans daylight savings is this weekend, which is even weirder. I thought it was like an in-sync whole world thing, but no, it's different weeks for different places, apparently.
That is just unbelievably confusing. I need to check if Austria's daylight savings are going to be the same as UK's, because if not, I'm going to be so confused and so tired on top of that. But please follow us on all of our social medias. We'll tell you kind of all the updates that are coming up and stuff like that, including our next review, which is going to be Drive My Car. We have now both watched this film. It's a long one. It was an interesting watch. If you want to hear our thoughts on it, for the kind of the outsider in this year's kind of best picture race, the foreign language one, which is getting a lot of hype actually behind it. Find out if it merits that hype at all. So, is there anything else? We got everything.
Oh, so obviously the main primary focus is Oscar season. Tuesday, the 29th of March, I should have had a tab. The Steven Spielberg retrospective begins. But kind of put that in the background at the moment. We're going to get Oscars done. You know, that one, the first one will be pre-recorded. That'll be pre-recorded before the Oscars for anyone at home. So if Spielberg wins Best Director, that's going to be amazing free marketing for the series.
Fantastic.
If he doesn't, which is expected, then it doesn't matter. We'll probably did last year. We were playing trailers, weren't we? Like across the Oscar, which is mad when you think about it. It's the Oscars live stream is the big one. It's always the big catapult of the year for us. You know, it's kind of like the first 3 months is this intense. Get all the Oscar films done, get them all done, get them online, get the predictions up, get the game up, get the stream up, and it is. And then we get to chill, and there's a lot of other things happening. You know, we've got I said Moon Knight's going to come out in March. That'll be done in June. There's going to be stuff in May for Kenobi and Star Wars. There's going to be stuff in April, I think, for other franchises, which I need to check my notes on. But I said the big one starting soon, which is the Spielberg retrospective. There's going to be a video going up on Tuesday, which is like a polite intro to the series. But aside from that, it is new releases as and when. We always put them up on our social medias, and we can't, cover these new releases like your sport at home. So as Tayte, please do hit that subscribe button. We have channel goals we're working towards. As you've seen, we had a review for Deep Water this week, the awful Ana de Armas and Ben Affleck film, the film that was marketed via their relationship in real life, which was mental that film finally came out.
I saw it was marketed this week as Ben Affleck being a very good snail wrangler or something like that.
He is a fan of snails. There's not been so many snails in a film since before I've even seen a film with snails in. Probably a Ratatouille or something had snails in.
Yes.
No, was there something in Monster Inc? I don't know. But if you like Deep Water, if you like Ana de Armas, maybe go watch that. It's more of a... It's like, I think maybe the shortest in the channel history is 8 minutes long. So do check that out. And as I said, we can't get these screeners and these new releases like you guys are supporting. So thank you as always for viewing these, for checking these out. And obviously, we're entering blockbuster season. There will be some bigger films coming out. They're a lot bigger than Deep Water. And, hit the subscribe and stick with us. We'll be able to cover them as soon as we can, get them up for you. Spoiler-free and spoiler discussions. That is something we adore doing. And yeah, I'll stop talking now. And that's going to be everything from me. So once again, everybody at home, thank you for watching this, for commenting along, all that sort of stuff. And please do join us on that Oscar live stream. We'll see you there. We'll go through everything on the chat. There are no messages incorrect. And thank you for watching. Take care.
Thank you.